White balance is the way that the camera responds to the tonal gradations in your image. So the camera has to know basically what type of light is hitting the subjects that you're going to take a picture of. And you need to set it to a preset in the camera or have a custom preset. And we're going to show you how to do that. So basically, let's take a look at the back of the camera. You've got a white balance button over here. And when you hold it in, if we look at the top of the screen here, we can see that it goes blank typically. Let's take a look. And I'm going to go ahead and press it, hold it in, and as I rotate the sub-command dial, you can see that it's switching along the bottom of the screen across the different presets that we have for the white balance. But I can show you much better in the menu because this can be done from the wheel and holding the button in, or it can be done fully from the menu. So I'm going to go ahead and to the back and press the menu, and it comes up, and let's go directly into the camera. I'm going to use my multi-position controller to navigate here. And you can see that when we get to the shooting menu, we go up and down and go to the shooting menu, go to the right, go up and down until you hit white balance, and then go to the right. We have all of the selections in there. Now the first one is automatic. That's where you might leave it most of the time. The camera is very intelligent, can pretty easily guess what you're going to be shooting and adjust the white balance accordingly. I leave it on that most of the time myself. But if you want to get specific, say you're not getting the results you think you should get, you can go down and set it to the exact lighting type that you have. If you are in a room with standard old Edison incandescent bulbs, standard bulbs, you can set it to that. Fluorescent bulbs. Now, what I'm going to show you next is interesting. We have direct sunlight, flash, which is very similar to direct sunlight, cloudy day but with the sun behind the clouds, and then shade in the shade of a building on a sunny day. I'm going to deal with these first because you see they have an arrow to the right. If I go to the right on my multi-position controller, I have some selections. Now, they're different for each one of these. If I go to incandescent and go to the right, it gives me this nice display. And if I move my multi-position controller around, I can shift the color balance and bias it. See, I'm just pressing my multi-position controller up and down, and the little dot moves around. I can bias it up or down in the 4 different color spectrums and take a look at the results. Say, well, it's not doing exactly what I want in incandescent, so I'm going to pump up the green a little bit, or I'm going to go towards the magenta and see if you really get exactly what you want. Now, I'm going to press menu again to go back. And let's look at some of the other selections. If I go to fluorescent and go to the right, it doesn't give me that same thing. It gives me a selection of fluorescent type of bulbs. Realize these days there's tons of types of fluorescent bulbs that use the basic physical phenomena of fluorescence to make their light. So you've got all these different types, and each of them is a slightly different color temperature, as we say. Color temperature being really the color of a flame burning at a particular temperature in Kelvin, the degree scale Kelvin. So I would go to the left again on our multi-position controller, go down, we got direct sunlight, and go to the right, and there it gives us the biasing gradical again, and we can just move things around just like we did on the incandescent over there. And I'm pressing menu to go back. I'm going to go back over here. And we go down to flash, and it gives the same type of display again. But as we go down to the bottom over here, choose color temperature. This is an interesting one. I'm going to go to the right, and I can go up and down here, and this is the exact color temperature in degrees Kelvin. And it's going to allow you to go from 10,000 down to 2,500. Now, to remember what this means, remember that about 3,200, right around this area right here, 3,000 to 3,200, is the color temperature of incandescent bulbs or candles and warm things in the red area. Just imagine that you could probably put your hand through a candle flame for a split second, but you wouldn't do that on a blue stove flame because the color blue in the flame is hotter than the orange and reddish flame. So remember that these down here are the very more red looking. And also, as you change by a factor of how many increments on each one of these, there's more of a change in the lower area of the numbers Kelvin than there are in the higher numbers. You just see less of a shift. As you get up to around, this area, 5,000, 5,200, this is daylight and strobe. Remember sort of 5,200 in your mind, that's really like the bluish, more bluish light of a daylight situation. And this allows you to go even more towards that blue and colder look. So you can select and take an experiment and see what's going to work for you to select an exact temperature. Right now I'm going to leave it on 5,000. I hit the set button. Whenever I hit the set, it allows me to go ahead and shift this around in our 4 color bases here using the multi-position controller to further customize it. So there you go. When you're done, hit OK, and it'll take it. Now we get to something more interesting, the last selection, preset manual. And that means that, I'm going to go to the right on this, what we have is we have 5 slots over here, basically D0 to D4. The first one is where we would take a piece of white paper or a gray sheet, and in the lighting that you're going to shoot, say it's a mixture of incandescent, fluorescent, lights coming in the window, you're in a convention hall, all kind of mixed light, and you just can't get it right. You take a white piece of paper. Now, let's look at the camera again from Cam 2 here, and I'll show you the top of the camera. How we set this is, we go ahead and set it in pre. And pre, you'll see in the bottom right hand of the screen, a very small display right there down pre. But when we're in pre, what we do is, I'm going to hold down the white balance button on the back of the camera. I could roll it over to pre, and when I hold it down for a few seconds, I've got to be in shooting mode here, when I hold it down for a few seconds, first of all, you see the D0 memory slot. That's the one for shooting white piece of paper. If I use my main control dial, it'll go to the 4 other slots, and those are used from taking color balance from a photograph that you've taken. But the D0 slot is for taking a white balance off of a white piece of paper or a gray piece of paper. So I go to the D0 position, and then I release the button, and I press it in and hold it for a few seconds, and it starts to flash. Let's go to camera 1, Martha. Then I take a white piece of paper, and I can immediately take a picture of that white piece of paper. The camera doesn't have to focus. And when I do that, take a look at camera 2, it went off a little bit quick. I'll do the same thing again. I'm going to hold in the white balance for a split second. Flash is pre. I'm going to take a piece of the white paper, and immediately let's go to cam 2. And you can see on top of the camera, it says good if you got a good white balance. So at that point, I'm going to go ahead and press the menu again. Let's take a look inside. I'm going to go to the right. And on our preset manual now, you see that white piece of paper shows up in D0. And if I want to use that, or I want to use a photograph, I would go to that D0 here and hit OK Set, and it would select it. And then it allows me to bias it if I want and skew it a little bit, or elbow it around. If not, you just hit OK twice. Let's go back and go back to the right here, and now go to one of the other slots. And what I did basically here was, you see the middle selection at the bottom, it says press the negative little magnifying glass over there. I'm going to go ahead and do that, and it goes to another menu in there for dealing with images that you are using as the preset white balance. Now, any one of these images that you take a picture of, say, oh, I always shoot in the convention hall, I took a picture of the podium, I'm going to be using that for my white balance, I put that in the D1 slot. Well, how do you do that? You go to this menu and you press select image by pressing OK. It shows you all your images over there, and I'm just going to pick one of them by hitting OK, and see it's in the D1 slot. And I can move it, look around and move it to the image I want. And if that's the one I want, I would hit set OK. Again, I'm going to press the middle select button, and if I look down here, I can now put a comment on this image. I go to the right, and I can just call it Convention Center or something like that. Well, I'm not going to name it at this point. I'm going to hit that middle again, the negative magnifying glass, but I can put a comment on it or name it, something like that. The next thing is select the image, which we did. And the first one over here, set, I'm going to go to the right over here, and it allows you to bias it, to even push it around. So this is very extensive control of your presets over here. I'm going to go ahead and hit the menu again and go down here. And there's only one more thing to know about this, and that is when you go to the right and hit the select button in the center, that you can copy images around here and clone them. So that's another option you've got. So I'm going to go back by pressing left on the multi-controller here. And really the technique that I like to use is taking the white piece of paper out of my bag, putting it under the light you're going to shoot in. Go ahead and press white balance and hold it in. Now remember, you can't be in the menu to do this. You've got to be in shooting mode. So press your shutter for a split second. Hold that white balance in for a split second. It starts blinking. Take your picture. Bam, it's set. And then it'll say OK on the top. No good. Well, you know what? I didn't frame it up. I just sort of moved the camera around rapidly. I'll do it again. Hold it in, and then it starts blinking, and then I do a really good shot. Bam, look at the top of the camera, and that one was good. So there we go. That's how you take a preset white balance. So experiment. That's the name of the game. You really want to get fancy, go in there with the presets and get the exact white balance you're looking for.